Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Pegasus. I am your host, Dr. Brittany Moore Henderson. Joining me today is a familiar face, Dr. Kent Hoblet, Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Hoblet.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Well, Dr. Hoblet, when I go back to think about the last time you were here on the show with me, we were talking about some developments, and that was about a little bit over a year ago. So at that time, we talked about our Institute for Marine Studies. We talked about the Dean's Council, all the different developments that were going on at that time. So of course now, it's been a good amount of time, all good things have happened within the college. However, we never knew that during this time we'll be faced with a pandemic. And that has been going on for about 10 months right now. So how would you say the CVM has been impacted by the COVID pandemic?
Well, like the rest of campus and like society, it's impacted us. It's made things harder, but our faculty and staff and students, I think, have done really well. Of course, we had graduation. Graduation was virtual. We're hoping that we can do it in person this year. We admitted the new class in June. We didn't have our coding ceremony. We had to do that. We'll do the coding ceremony later. We were actually, when the university came back from spring break, we actually had our students, they were volunteering in the clinic. They did some of their rounds virtually, but we had volunteer students man the taking care of patients, helping the faculty and staff. We actually didn't lose really any time on rotations. We were able, because we have 2 years of clinics, we were able to, the fourth year students were able to graduate with all the credits they needed, which wasn't the case. Some schools had some trouble figuring that out, but we were able to do that. I think our students all got positions this year, which is amazing considering they're all over the country. You know, when we started with the new class in June, we didn't want to be virtual. So what we did is we've got enough space, we put them in the auditorium. They're all physically distanced, they all wear masks, sanitizers all over the place. You can't go 10 feet without seeing sanitizers. And we had it all face-to-face in the lecture room. Students were assigned seats, but we also did it simultaneous, a simulcast, and also recorded it. So if somebody got up in the morning and had a fever, we didn't want them coming, but they could keep up. And we got through the first semester with the first two. We did the same thing basically with the second year class, only in different rooms, and we were really fortunate. You'd like to take a big breath and say we made it. Well, we made it through the first semester. Of course, we have students here now. The clinical students are still here, and so we're still trying to navigate through everything there. We haven't allowed owners with their pets. We meet them curbside just like private practices do. That makes it a little more difficult, but it keeps us trying to keep the virus out of the building, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So like you said, it's impacting, of course, our students in different ways. However, our students have pretty much still been able to do all the things as far as like been doing virtual learning for our clinical students, especially during rounds. So that's the only time it's been really virtual. But like you said, everyone else was able to come into the building, of course, socially distanced, wearing their face masks, and we've been doing pretty well. So we've kept things going on, unlike some other institutions that have still remained all virtual. So I think that's been good that we've been able to keep our students here and going and doing all the things that they should do as a part of veterinary school.
So in the laboratories, like in the first year, anatomy is a big course, and what we did there is we split the class into 3 groups. And so instead of the whole group coming for 3 days, each group came 1 day and actually got more faculty attention in the lab, and it was less crowded. I think in the first class we did have one student that was positive, and I think she got it from her husband, but we didn't have any spread. Yes, and I think pretty much the same thing in the second year class. So we're really fortunate.
That's awesome, Dr. Hoblet. So that means that we been keeping the infection at bay, and pretty much our students have been benefiting because, like you said, that in anatomy they actually got more time because they had more instructors around them. So they actually benefited from the situation as well too. So That's good to hear.
But they're still ready to get rid of this and get back to normal.
That's
right?
true. That is very true.
We're counting the days till the vaccine's available.
Definitely. So in what ways would you say that the college has responded to the COVID pandemic in regards to what have we done here to help keep the pandemic, the virus at bay?
Yeah, so one thing, we're kind of at the south side of campus. The campus, since we started earlier, we needed extra space in the new classroom building. The campus allowed us to make our facilities just accessible, card accessible to people that are here every day at work and our students. So the cafeteria, the Pegasus cafeteria, is just open for people that are here working or class. That was a big thing. That helped us a lot with crowding and keeping the people. We kind of had a bubble.
Yes.
Or we thought we had a bubble, right? But that helped a lot. You know, we take temperatures. There's things you can walk up to and get your temperature. I mentioned the hand sanitizers. You know, that's pretty much, we haven't, you mentioned one of the things when you were talking about our program down on the Gulf Coast. We know the students, we think they'd be safe when they got there. The problem is that's a 3.5 to 4 hour drive is getting there. We just started going back there before the second spike started. So we've stopped that again. We're going to do some virtual things there. We've got some ways to set up so that when they're doing exams down there on a turtle or a dolphin, we're going to call it Marine Mondays, where the students will go and watch, and that way they can at least get some of that, even though we're hoping to get them there again when this quiets down a little bit.
Exactly, but that's the benefit of having the type of curriculum we have. Like usually they go down there during their third year, but now they still have at least another year for them to gain that experience if they would like to have that type of experience. So that's pretty good. So I know some other things that we've done in college. We had a COVID task force.
Yeah, that was a really good thing. That we have, among all U.S. veterinary colleges, I like to brag about this, we have the largest group of board-certified veterinary epidemiologists in the whole United States. Now, we've only got 5, but it's still more than any other college has. And so when these people are specialized, just like human epidemiologists, in the spread of disease in populations. So what we did is ask them, before we made any policy, we would run it past them, and they'd look at the literature and figure out what other people were doing. And so they were a source of advising for us before we made decisions. So.
Okay, awesome. And they're still in the process of giving us, you know, their recommendations throughout this whole process. So we'll still continue to hear from them until we have fought this pretty much.
It's actually more than the 5 epidemiologists. Like Dr. Burt, the hospital director's on that. He has a master's in public health. We've got some other people that are infectious disease people, and it's been really helpful for us.
Exactly. And then they take in consideration the students, what they have to say, you know, because of course it's been hard for the students here, you know, being socially distanced, and then especially for our first year class, not meeting each other really, like, you know, face to face, seeing whether or not each other smiling or not. So there's been some limitations, of course, with all of this, but of course we're doing things to keep everyone safe.
Right.
So I think another thing that has been a positive for us, for the college, most people wouldn't think that we also have a lab here that opened up to do COVID testing.
Yeah, Dr. Keenum asked us, well, we talked about it last March when this happened, but we've got a accredited veterinary diagnostic lab. We actually have 4 of them. 1 here, 2 are in Pearl, and then 1 out in the Delta at Stoneville. But to run tests on humans, you have to have something called CLIA, which is a process by which you become certified to test human samples. And there's HIPAA involved. It all has to be anonymous. So we didn't do it when it started, but then this summer when we were going to bring students back, the undergraduates, Dr. Keenum asked us if we could do that. Dr. Steve Pruitt led a group of investigators, Dr. So, and a bunch of technicians that can actually run this equipment. It's very high-end technical equipment. And we got CLIA approval. And as of right now, we've run somewhere over 5,000 tests. People don't come here to get tested.
No.
but they get tested at the Longest Health Center, and then they bring, we actually pick the samples up, process them, and we've got a 24-hour turnaround on those. We're going to start, actually got the equipment now. They want us to test antibodies.
Okay.
So right now we're testing for the virus, but we'll be able to test when classes resume in January if somebody, a physician wants a person checked for antibodies, or an athlete, we'll be able to run the antibody tests also.
So I have to say that the CVM, we are doing big things. We have been contributing to, defeating this virus or helping in some type of way. So
yeah, I'd have to throw out a shout to the campus too. When I was so glad we could start early, like in June and July, before all the undergraduates came, because I couldn't imagine how they would handle that. But actually, the way the processes that were put in place and the students that came back, there were infections, but it never really exploded like people thought it might. So we're proud of the whole campus.
Awesome. So what would you say, since this pandemic has occurred, despite the pandemic, how has the CVM flourished?
Well, it's been harder to flourish. But what we've done is we've still got committees working. We're in the process of changing our curriculum, because we're going to actually next summer we're going to take more students than we've been taking. So we got to change curriculum. We're doing that. We've got something called we're going to implement called the Enhanced Clinical Practicum, which will be will take place right away, but as those students get into the clinic, there'll be practices designated in Mississippi. Right now there are 12, and then practices throughout the South all the way to Virginia, where some of our alumni are, and students will go for prescribed periods of time to get actual. They're doing that now on a volunteer basis, and most students do it, but this will actually be part of the formal curriculum, part of our accreditation. So that's a big thing we've done.
Yeah, that is awesome, Dr. Hoblet. And like you said, like renovation, thinking about the clinical skills lab, and then we have done some renovations down in the hospital. All that we're preparing for our COE, which I know is going to go well, and I hope will go well. So I think we have done some good things here, despite the challenges that we have been presented with through the COVID-19. So thank you, Dr. Hoblet, for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
And that concludes this episode of Pegasus. If you have any questions, suggestions about this show, please do not hesitate to contact me at brittany.henderson@msstate.edu. I look forward to seeing you and hearing you next time here on Pegasus.